other two types of macronutrient we will discuss after this on lipids and protein. What are the symptoms of glycogen depletion? Fatigue and reduced performance. This is especially for athletes. Bila dia exercise terlampau lama, you didn't replenish, then you feel fatigue. Dia akan rasa sangat penat, right? Fatigue is not like tired penat lah. Fatigue is like lesu, you macam sangat-sangat penat, extremely tired, fatigue. And reduce the performance. So especially for athletes, they know that okay, you have exercised for a few hours, then your muscle or glycogen in the muscle has depleted. Okay, that's the second function of carbohydrate. The third one, building macromolecules. This refers to glucose not only for energy production, energy storage, it's also converted to ribose and deoxyribose. More important is just if you look here, some of these DNA and RNA, you see the glucose, blue and red. It's one of the parts, to link that. So that's important for building macromolecules. Number 4, sparing protein. Okay, spare protein. Okay, even though it's called protein, but it comes from carbohydrate. So all this actually is like not interchangeable, but it can change in terms of the functions. In situation where there is not enough glucose, the glucose to meet the body's need, glucose synthesized from amino acids, and this amino acid is from protein. Okay, and because there is no storage molecule of amino acids, process require destruction of protein primarily from muscle tissue. So dalam otot kita, not just glycogen, it also have protein. Alright, and this protein from the muscle will be destruct, will be break down. Alright, and same goes when we have lack of glycogen in the muscle if you go for exercise or prolonged exercise. And the presence of adequate glucose spare the breakdown of protein from being used to make glucose needed by the body. Kalau ada glucose lagi, protein tu akan disimpan. Alright, so our body will not destruct the protein in the muscles. They will use the glucose. Okay. Number 5, alright, is more the lipid metabolism. Especially when the blood glucose level rise, when you have a hyperglycemia, the rising of the blood glucose, use of lipid as an energy source is inhibited. So normally during this, let me give some example here, alright? In a metabolic process, when fat is needed for energy, carbohydrate is also needed. This is due to the fact that carbohydrate presence is essential for breaking down fat molecules. So carbohydrate is used to metabolize the lipid. Alright? So without carbohydrate, it is hard to completely oxidize fat. So the function of carbohydrate is to help the lipid metabolism. One example, if you do not want to take carbohydrate at all, you omit all carbohydrate, 100%, right? You only have protein and fat in the diet. What happens is, it is possible to oxidize fat with the absence of carbohydrate still, but it will produce ketone bodies. That's why people who which is called ketosis. There were people, there's this type of diet, they omit 100% carbohydrate, they don't want to have carbohydrate 100%, they just take protein and fat, they will produce ketosis, especially, and these are ketone bodies. Normally it will, you can measure it with in the urine smell ketones, alright? And that is one of the reasons, because so we still need carbohydrate for this purpose. So that's 5 functions of carbohydrate. You still remember? First one? Production, storage, Macromolecules. Sparing protein. Last one, lipid metabolism. Okay, that's 5 things. I would like to move on to the next. Are you able to access this? I think that's fine. 2 words about carbohydrates. What's 2 words about functions of carbohydrate? You already tell me just now. Okay, I move on. Next is protein. Okay, what are examples of protein? Ada tak ambil protein hari ni? Yes? Yeah, sure. Contradict. Okay, that one is when the glucose. Okay, here because the glucose already high in the blood, so that's why the lipid metabolism too inhibited. Okay, but in order to metabolize the lipid, you still need some amount of carbohydrate. Bila gula terlalu tinggi, maksudnya dah banyak, the carbohydrates already there in the form of glucose. Okay, so you need to be familiar with the terms. Sometimes I use the word carbohydrate is the big things. Under that you have simple, which is glucose, fructose, but in the blood we call it glucose, the simple form, right? But in the food you have in the form of but in the food we don't use the monopolysaccharide. These are all about structures. Okay, in practice when we talk to patient, we don't use these technical terms. Kita akan cakap, pakcik makan apa? Makan nasi. Okay, you know in your mind your nasi is carbohydrate. How does it help? Because this is very important, especially when you deal with diabetes patient, for example, or even obese patient. Okay. Next is protein. So protein, just now you say what are examples of protein? Chicken, eggs, fish. Okay, remember these are we call as main sources, but it doesn't mean it does not contain other nutrients. Okay, macam susu, it has protein, it also has carbohydrate. Okay, so this core is most abundant organic compounds, major part of body dry weight. So dalam badan kita, about 10 to 12 kg of our dry weight consists of this protein. Why? Because protein are made from 20 different amino acids. Okay? And the basic units of proteins are amino acids, and each amino acid consists of this. If you look at this structure, the other amino group, side chain, and carboxyl group. Alright, these are the structure, molecule structure, but you don't have to memorize this. I will go in details about this. This one is, you can read yourself. I will go into the functions. This is just to recap. Let me go to functions. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 functions of protein. And many roles of protein. One of it is structural and mechanical, support and maintenance. Okay, so because 10 to 12 kg of our dry weight consists of protein. Okay, it depends on your weight. It's about, it could be a quarter of our body from protein. Because the proteins make the structure of badan kita kan, dalam otot, these are all protein. And it provides support. So proteins, body building materials, give us strength, flexibility to the tissue. We're able to move because of the protein. Alright, tendons, ligaments, alright, muscles, organs, all of these contain protein. Bones, nails, hair, our skins, these are all protein, right? Contribute. Proteins needed for ongoing maintenance. So apart from that, we need that for maintenance. Okay? And that's the reason when we do physical examination of the body of your patient, future patient, for example, you see those who have protein inadequacy. The serious one you can see from nails, bones, alright, of different formation. That's the first one, structure, mechanical support as well as maintenance. The second function is enzyme and hormones, right? So proteins needed to make most enzyme that speed up reactions in the body and make hormones, and make hormones direct specific activities. This one you learned very specific on the enzyme and hormones, but the most important part of the protein, from the food sources of protein, it gives us all this. One of it is regulate the blood glucose level because of the functions of protein into enzyme and hormones. Another role of protein is fluid balance. Okay, proteins plays a major role ensuring the body fluids evenly dispersed, right, in the blood and inside and outside cells. These are more on the fluid balance. Acid-base balance, the same things, more or less like the fluid balance, and as well as for transport. And protein shuttle substances like oxygen, waste products, nutrients through the blood cycle into and out of the cells. I'll go in detail after this. Antibodies and the immune response. Energy. For carbohydrate, just know 1 gram of carbohydrate provide 4 kilocalories, and this same goes for protein. Protein also gives us energy. Even let's say you eat 1 boiled egg, these are solely protein. You still feel energetic, right? After that, because that will provide you energy. So energy, proteins provide 4 kilocalories for 1 gram of protein. Alright? So if we don't have carbohydrate, if we have protein, food sources of protein, we still can get energy. Alright? Lastly is satiety. If you add more protein to our diet, in our daily diet, you will feel the fullness. You akan rasa lebih kenyang if you have protein. Okay, that's why we have in Malaysia we more or less we have mixed everything. We don't eat like single, we makan nasi dulu habiskan and then makan ayam. Most of the time we have it in a mix eating when you eat it. So protein increase satiety and control appetite and weight. What is this? Proteins composed of amino acid building blocks required for the synthesis of hemoglobin, and adequate protein intake ensures sufficiency of amino acid. These will facilitate the production of new hemoglobin molecules. If we put it in practice, this is important as well. Practice, some patient with inadequate protein, I'm talking about inadequate protein from the diet. Dia tak cukup makan protein. There are people who just eat rice, only the carbohydrate, but they don't have sources of protein. Dia tak makan ikan, ayam, alright? It can be seen clinically from the hemoglobin level. Boleh buat blood test, check the hemoglobin. Oh, the hemoglobin level of these patients very low. That's one of the clinical manifestation of inadequate protein in the diet. One of it. Even though there are many other reasons that will affect the level of hemoglobin in the blood. Alright? One, because of, go back to the structure, because protein gives consists of amino acids, and these amino acid we call as building blocks. Okay, building blocks. It's like you develop certain things. You need that. and these contribute by protein. Building blocks for the hemoglobin. Alright? These are just sources of protein, not going in details here. Okay, protein, we call it a complete or incomplete of protein, depending on the amino acid. Alright? And most of the complete protein comes from animal sources. Okay? So if you have your future patients who are vegetarian, for example, they are more towards incomplete protein because the protein derived from plants. Okay, dia makan protein juga, but from plants. But these plant sources of protein, they lack of maybe one or more amino acids. Alright? So the complete protein is more on the high quality. Why is called high? Because of the bioavailability. Bioavailability means when you eat that particular food and have complete protein, in other words from animal source, is easily digested compared to when you have protein from plant source. Okay? That's a difference. So there are some recommendations depending on your patient. Some will have a very strict vegan, then you need to carefully look, they don't combine. So this is called complementary protein, so that they mix up. Just like what we have on a daily basis, especially for non-vegetarian. Kita ambil some protein from plants, for example like tempeh, right? You mix up with chicken, so that is you complement the complete and incomplete protein. Alright, that's 2 or more protein. Let's look at, I move on to, okay, how much protein do we need? Do you know your body weight? No. Tahu tak? What's your body weight? Let's say your body weight is 50. So for healthy adult, it's about 0.8 times your weight. So you can calculate. Needs a little bit of calculation. This is RDA, but in a recommended nutrient intake, that's actually roughly range, 0.8 to 1. That is for normal. Okay, so easy to calculate. Let's say weight is 50. We need about 50 grams of protein, or not more than 50 if you take 0.8. But roughly in our diet, we just require up to 20% of the total calories. Let's say I'm taking 2,000 calories in a day. 20% of it is much above 400. Yeah, 400 calories, that's 20%. And 400 calories, you need to divide. This is a bit of, but you don't have to remember the formula. It's just to tell you how it connected to how much protein that we need to have in our diet. Alright, roughly. This one for healthy adults. I'm going to go to fat. This one, let me go to fat a little bit before we finish. So these are, fat is actually in the form of fatty acid. Okay, let's look at the structure. So structure dia macam tu, from hydrogen, carbon, alright, and we have the fatty acid, and different fatty acid will give this different structure of different type of fat, okay, depending on the double bond. Alright, so this is more on the biochem, but it's just as an overview. You don't have to memorize on this. Fatty acid have 2 types, ada 2 jenis lemak. whatever we call it, lemak, it could be in the form of solid. If it's solid, it's like butter, margarine, that's also fat, yeah. But in the form of liquid, it's just like oil. So that's still counted as fat, alright? And this fat have two types. One is saturated, another one is unsaturated, depending on the structure of fat, alright? Okay, I'm going to go this a bit on functions, right? This one, the functions. Just like just now we talked about carbohydrate, that's 5 functions. It relates to fat and protein. For lipids, yeah, the functions have 4 main functions. One of it is storing energy. So lemak ni lebih kepada menyimpan. Dia menyimpan tenaga. If you have so much of fat in the diet, it will be stored. It will be stored. Dia akan sentiasa disimpan. Okay. Another one is regulate and signal. Let's look at the example. What is storing? Excess energy. Ini sama macam carbohydrate tadi. If you take more from the calorie, ia akan disimpan sebagai lemak. Okay? That's why people cautious about calories. Whether you eat based on recommendation or excessively. If you take excessively, ia akan disimpan sebagai lemak. But if you exercise, that will be used, alright, to fuel when you exercise. So most of the energy from the carbohydrates and lipids. Okay, let's look at the second one, regulate and signal. What does it mean? This one, especially during climates, bila panas atau sejuk, right? We need this fat function to regulate and signals. Adipose tissue secretes the hormone leptin, regulates appetite. Alright, this is also one function of fat. And fat helps from nerve cell membranes, insulate neurons, facilitate signaling of an electrical impulse throughout the brain. So it is more on to produce and regulate hormone through these triacylglycerols. Okay, this is about regulate and signals. The third one is insulate. It's more on the insulating. Insulates more to preserve the temperature. Alright? Up to 30% of body weight comprised of fat tissues. And some of these made up of visceral fat that surrounding the organs. Or adipose tissue, we have subcutaneous fat yang di bawah kulit. Alright? That is subcutaneous. So visceral, that's surrounding the organs. These are the fats, such as heart. So some of these will made up from this fat in the diet. Okay, if you read through some of this composition of the brain, 60% fat, it remains that demonstrate the major structure role that fat serve within the body. So most of the brain is structured from 60% fat. Subcutaneous fat, fat under the skin, underneath the skin. This one require to insulate from extreme temperature. Kalau terlalu sejuk, terlalu panas, these are the functions of subcutaneous fat. Alright? Number 4, digestions and bioavailability. This refers for, if you read through, bile acid from cholesterol in the liver, right, act like detergents in your guts, dissolving fat from the food. That's why people who have bile acid problem, or they have the, what's the hempedu in English? What do you call it? Bile. Yeah, gallbladder. Yeah, that's it. People with these functions of this unable to have high fat food. Dia macam detergent. It's just like you do experiment. You have oil and you put detergent, sabun kan, it will dissolve. And that is the function of bile acids. Yeah? It will, from the cholesterol in liver, it dissolves fat from your food. And this is necessary for normal digestion as well as absorption of lipids and fat-soluble vitamins. After this, you will learn about vitamins. Certain vitamins we need fat because these are vitamins that fat soluble, A, D, E, K. So if you consume food high in these vitamins, you need certain amount of fats. That's the reason why we have salad with some certain fats, right? Salads, kita ada vitamins, A, D, we put some amount of fat as this dressing because that will dissolve this vitamin so easily be digested. Okay. If bile acid does not reach your gut from the gallbladder, they are stored, fat is not digested properly, the result is diarrhea, and the fat is lost, it pays very smelly. So these for patients or people with having issues with the gallbladder. Alright. Lastly, in terms of the recommendation, okay, fat, the second one is more infant fat. Breast milk consumes about 50% of fat, but the fat is actually having different types, right? Different types of fats. Just in breast milk, it contains 50% of fat, but these fats is actually easily digested. Right? It's not similar with the fat or oil that we have in the food. Right? For RNI for recommended nutrient intake for Malaysian adults is about up to 30%. 1/3 of our total calories can come from fat. That is the recommended nutrient intake. So we can't really omit all fats, alright? Because fat has these functions. Okay, I think that's coming up towards the end. I'm trying to highlight the few things that's important. Certain parts in the slides you can read through because I know you have learned about this. But the most important part is about functions of carbohydrates, how it helps, alright? Functions of protein, how it helps, and how it's what are the type of foods. And another one is functions of lipid. Okay? If you have any questions, I think I put the my email. Feel free to ask, right? Because we don't have enough time. Dr. Noraida is here. Alright? Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that helps you, it gives you something. Okay? Thanks.
Are you okay to proceed or 5-minute break? Okay, 5 minutes now. Alright, 5 minutes for toilet break.
one. She came for my last visit. I diagnosed myself for her dyspepsia.
Damn.
I guess so. Please. Ayaw mo.